Take two. Welcome to the first series first in the series of in contention in opposition of. Most people are blissfully unaware that there are 18 widely held modernistic Christian theologies which are exact opposite to which the first century of Yeshua and Paul and the rest of the Netzarim Shilikim, or the apostles, held. This first is in part due to the fact that Hebrew and Aramaic languages contain words which have several meanings. And when the translators took it, they only took it from the Greek and the Latin, and they didn't necessarily consult with the Hebrew and necessarily understand Hebrew to enough that they could have translated it. So, just for an example, the word ruach, right? Does it mean spirit? Does it mean wind? Does it mean breath? Actually means all of them. I took a course in Hebrew by which they said it's the letter in itself, even the letter, like Aleph, alright, is who it hangs with. So it can change its interpretation of how it's pronounced just by throwing another letter in front of it or behind it, or even a little hyphen or some of the little squiggles that they use will determine how it's pronounced or interpreted. The Aramaic word has melatha, which could mean word, instance, emanation, substance, occurrence, and even manifestation. Quite a bit of difference there in the variety. Perhaps when John wrote, in the beginning was the melatha, or in the beginning was the word, all right, he actually meant it wasn't just the word, but in the beginning was the instance. It could be translated it was the emanation or the substance. In the beginning was the substance. It could also mean in the beginning was the occurrence or even the manifestation. Now, out of the multitude of words, all right, in my precept, in my concept, I'm more leaning toward the word or manifestation. In the beginning was the manifestation or the revelation of the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Alright? But again, Word, alright, the manifestation, in the beginning was the manifestation was God, and God was the manifestation. So you can see the play in words out of by which Aramaic and Hebrew can bring a little bit of confusion into the English language. And the error kind of started when back in the old times, all right, some of the Jews had migrated to Alexandria, and they had taken up Greek culture and Greek language, and so they had forgotten the Hebrew. So they began translating. They wanted a scripture in their own words and in something they could understand, and began to translate in Greek. When Rome became the center of theology, right, they too wanted a scripture in their own language and began to take the Greek and translate it into Latin. Later down the road, of course, you had the Protestant and Reformation movements. And they too, different nations, wanted to hear the gospel in their own language. Which is all right. You have a right to hear the gospel in your own language. Unfortunately, your translators only picked one word. And because of that, you assume that a scripture means a certain thing. When scripture can be translated in one word in Hebrew or in Aramaic with the original language into different aspects. So you have a whole gambit of translations now, which kind of went amiss. Now, some of the modern day theologians have come to realize that they've made a few boo-boos along the way in retracing the tracks. But very few are getting back into the Aramaic translation, partly because it's kept from them. Because when Rome divided, alright, you have the Eastern Empire and the Western Empire, and it just continues on. Roman Empire split into East versus West. And most people think that Caesar reunited it, but actually he didn't. It continued on and continued to remain divided. Even under Constantine, it split again. In the Eastern culture, it became Roman Catholicism. In the Western culture, it became Roman Catholicism. In the Eastern culture, it was the Aramaic Catholicism, or the Orthodox Catholicism. But, and some of that can be debated thereon, but East versus West continues still today, even between the Hebrew languages and the Aramaic schools. There are differences. But if you really want to get an understanding, you at least have to have some kind of ideal and concept between Hebrew versus Aramaic versus the Greek. And what we want to do over the next few things, I'm breaking it down a little bit further because 10 minutes just ain't enough. And that's what they give me on YouTube. So I'm breaking it down a little bit further so I can comment and take my time, because I'm trying to rush through and meet that 10 minute, and it just ain't working, and it's frustrating. I like to get more time on YouTube, but this is what they give me. So stay tuned. We're going to part 1. This is the intro of part 2. To the next broadcast, this is Rabbi Daniel Bome, Beit Hizdah, saying Shalom.